Everyone, and welcome back to the Nocturnal Corner with Bat. Today I thought I would do something a little bit different, and that's mainly because I texted Tarjum the other day and they said that they were interested in some ideas that I had, and literally I had to stop messaging them just because I went to work. That's why you can see the time difference. But I was just like this whole time in my truck, just thinking about the game and what the game can do in the future. And I think I really came up with a banger. I really don't understand where all my ideas came from, just like to my head. But I was like, dang, if they did this, they could do this. And this like syncs up with this, and that syncs up with that. And it was just like everything was just coming together. Like it was just meant to be, bro. And I'm excited to actually go through this with you because I really want to see what you guys think of everything that I came up with. And honestly, there might not be a video tomorrow just because I got so deep into this idea, and I'm really excited about this one, like, completely. So, starting off with, I was kind of originally going to talk to them specifically just about the autocannons, but I like came up with the whole battle pass and everything, dude. So, starting out with what I just said with the legendary autocannons, going down here, I was just trying to change the perks of them because I felt like the Stillwind had a perk that didn't really fit with it. It made sense. Like, because, you're shooting long range and you can stay invisible and they won't see you and whatnot. But it didn't feel right because the weapon was 5 energy. And because the weapon was 5 energy, when you're playing at like higher power scores and whatnot, if you're not just using 2 of them, a lot of the time you're not really, you don't really feel like you're inclined to use an invisibility module, you know what I mean? Like if it was like 4 energy and it was just like, when things are 4 energy, usually a lot of time people only like run 3 because 3 you'll get a lot of damage and you can put some modules with it. Versus when it's 5, you're gonna be most likely running 3 and like probably like a radiator or a cooler or whatever, you know what I mean? So here, the Steelwind being the upgraded Whirlwind and autocannon based more on distance shooting, the weapon should have a perk more directed towards distance fighting. Like, every accurate hit will give the weapon special bonuses. And what I mean by that is it could have the perk like the Retcher or the original Whirlwind, but just slightly upgraded. I was thinking more of every time you hit with some accuracy, it would just give like small buffs to it. Maybe like better penetration every shot or slightly increased fire rate, like something to actually complement you being accurate at distance. Because in my opinion, it seems like we have 3 categories of autocannon. The basically machine gun, the basically more armored, somewhat fast firing one, and then you got the slow rate of fire one that's great for distance. And it's kind of like close range, mid range, and long range. And the Stillwind, in my opinion, is the big, tall, long boy that has a slow fire rate for distance. So I think it should have a perk more designed for distance. Now, going down from there, we got the Cyclone. The Cyclone, after the update, I think definitely got better with its fire rate and whatnot. But it's like, now with the 25% going up to that extra additional 14%, you kind of notice it shoots faster. But now it seems like the perk, that I'm going to put parentheses on perk, doesn't, it seems less like a perk and more of a description. You know what I mean? It doesn't seem like it really has a perk at all. So down here, Cyclone is better after the update, but it still feels like the perk of it isn't a perk at all and more like a description. I think as it already fires fast and doesn't exactly seem to build up speed anymore, that it should be given a new perk. I think the massive shield in the front should be a lighter version of the Bastion perk, giving the front of the weapon a percentage of damage reduction. Or an alternative would be like the Riot unit from Guns Up, where the shield has its own durability and when it hits 0, the shield would break off. To me, that just makes sense. Because if you think of, like, the Whirl was like a double barrel, more tanky, somewhat fast firing autocannon. versus where you had the Jewel, where it was the not so tanky rapid fire autocannon. And then you had the Whirlwind, which was a little less tanky than the other one, but way more tanky than the Jewel and was great at long range. So it's like, rock, paper, scissors between them. And the Cyclone, I think it should be the armored version of the autocannons. And the big ass shield that it has in the front, I'm surprised isn't like a smaller version of the Bastion cab, or like a shield that takes a certain amount of damage and pops off. You know what I mean? Like, it would be like, 25% less damage. Like, it can't be as strong as the actual cabin itself, but I feel like it would just make sense. Especially since the Cyclone is so big and it's not really that easy to build around. Having that big armored shield in the front, it just makes sense to me. And I really hope you guys agree with that, because it makes perfect sense to me. So now going down, I actually came up with 3 new modes. One of the modes, which is the raids, I actually came up with before, but this time I went into a little bit more detail while I was thinking through it. In this mode, each member can have the option of building a base defense. Basically meaning when you go to build options in your garage or whatever, you're going to have an option for base. And it's going to have a specific layout, but instead of just having a strip to build on, you're going to have the different layers that you'll be able to add defenses. You'll be able to make it into a maze. You'll be able to put the ramps here, something here, traps here. And you're just basically building it to stop the other player as a base defense type of mode. And I feel like since they already implemented something like that, where you can even literally throw turrets and missile launcher turrets in your base, that I think that would be a great idea. It would be similar to the garage building, but having multiple layers for attacking forces to get through. Players can add multiple different turrets, legendary vehicles, and heavy turrets that can be manned by defending clan. The arena will also deploy vehicles like from the raids. However, the elites and regular units will be player created, as rarities will have different energy drains based on enemy class to keep the match fair. For example, if you put an epic on a regular spawn, it will be nearly double the energy. The parts and weapons will also be based on which faction you decide to represent. So if you don't get what I mean there is, I think which would be like a pretty solid idea is you can pick your favorite faction. So say you want to be Steppenwolf, you want to be Don's Children, you want to be, fucking Scavengers, Lunatics, whatever. And then from there, you can go to where the spawn would be. And this would be for all spawns. It would be universal between all spawns. You don't have to go this one, this one, this one, this one, blah, 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 blah. But it would be you'll see multiple boxes, and each box will be under the category regular unit, epic unit, legendary unit. And when you're going in clans, not clans, but raids, you'll see the purple guy, you'll see the red guy, you'll see the big guy and whatnot, right? And the whole purpose of what I'm saying here is you can either put a preset, an already pre-made, and it'll be looking more like raid, or you can actually go in there and you can build what the AI vehicles would look like. And how you would keep the fairness is based on what type of unit it is. The rarities that you would throw on it will determine the drain, or the basically if you go higher rarity, the less you'll be able to do with the build. But if you go lower rarity, so that way you can keep some balance with... Because let's think of it like this. If you go Lunatics, and you put 3 crickets on a regular car, and it's going to be spamming out mainly those regular vehicles, that means every regular vehicle is going to have 3 crickets, and you're just going to get annihilated. This is more like when you see the regular vehicles, you're going to be more inclined to use blues or specials. And then if you get an elite, you'll have maybe a little bit of epics or mainly specials, and then so on. so that way it can keep the games balancing. Now, what I also mean by the by the heavy turrets and legendary vehicles and stuff like that is the defending team. And I'm going to say this further down. Actually, you know what? Before I say this, I'm going to read more and then I'm going to get into this. Defenders will be roaming around watching the assault. The leader of the party will be the chosen base layout. Defenders have a series of actions, from taking control of spawned elite vehicles, activating traps, and even manning turrets. Player main vehicles on defending will have a long cooldown, being able to spawn in anytime your cooldown is lowered. However, once destroyed, you must wait for your cooldown to reset. Attacking players will have a decent amount of lives and a time limit to work around. Achieving objective goals will give some time and lives back as a reward. If all the lives are spent or time runs out, the match ends. Sides will then switch and the team with the most points wins. Points will be rewarded from kills, base destruction, and objectives. And there's a little bit I wrote all the way at the bottom that's going to be explaining a little bit more how you win and how gain some more points. But the reason I stopped there is because I knew this part was coming up. Basically, one side is going to have their vehicles, right? And the other side is going to be kind of like, trying to think of a game, like the Evil Dead. When you're playing as the killer or the demon, and you're just roaming around and you're setting up traps and you're deploying your guys and whatnot. And how you can even like take control, like I think it's the plague witch, how you can like take control of the pirate skeletons is going to be kind of the same thing. You could take control of the AI vehicles that you like preset or whatever, and you can actually go and fight. Or you can man the turrets. So you remember, if you've ever played the adventure mode and actually got through it, they had like the mandrake turrets, or how I said like legendary things, and I'm gonna go through that also in like the battle pass idea I have, is you can have like cannons and other type of weapons that you wouldn't actually see on your vehicles, and they'll actually be like base defenses, and you can go and man those as well. Or you can like set traps and you can activate the traps, or the traps will be about them running it over and whatnot. So it's going to be like very interactive for the defending team, where they're going to go around their base and do all these different things to try to prevent the attacking team from getting through their base and trying to kill off their time or take away all their lives. Now, saying that, one of the things that I also mentioned in here was that your car is going to have a cooldown. So you can't just spam your car in there and just keep fighting them off. Like if you're like a fire dog and you know these dudes are just tanky, like hovers or whatever, and you're like, your whole team is like, yeah, we can take them all out, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to work like that. Instead of using your main vehicle, it's only going to be able to come back every now and then on a long cooldown. That way you can occasionally throw your car in there, but most of the time it's like in a situational sense, so that way you're being more strategic about when you want to send your car in there, because as soon as you do that, and if you get killed, now you can't use your vehicle anymore. And obviously your vehicle is going to be a lot better than the presets or the little vehicles that you build that are going to be spamming in there to fight the guys off. So you're going to mainly be, taking control of the AI vehicles, the cannons, the traps, and any other things that the defenders will be able to do. So I'm actually going to scroll all the way down past everything to right here. So this is what I thought of like after, because I was thinking like the rules of how to win. Also in clan raids, to decide a winner, it will be based on 3 things. 1, main win. If attackers get through the whole base and defeat the boss, so I'm going to actually explain what I mean by the boss, they get round win. If in the switch, if both teams defeat the base, it will be determined on who got the faster time. If one team defeats base but the other fails, the winner is the one that got through the base. So I don't know if I did like broken English there or not, but basically there's obviously going to be an end goal. And the end goal is you get through the whole base and then you take out the boss unit. And the boss unit is going to be like a Leviathan. And I didn't really explain this in there, but this is what I was thinking of. Like the chase vehicles, if you know what I mean. And instead of the computer going and cycling through the guns to attack you with like all the mammoths or the rockets, blah blah blah, the players will actually man the turrets on the boss, and they're the ones that are going to fight you, while instead of you being the driver of the Leviathan, the AI is going to be the driver of the Leviathan, and you're going to be the ones manning the guns trying to stop the enemy team. So I thought that was a pretty cool boss idea. And all the guns will still be usable because it'll be you and your 3 clan mates that are taking control of the weapons to fight them off. Now, going into that a little bit more, this is the most important win. Actually getting through the base is going to be your main objective. Because if you get through the whole base and then you stop them, it doesn't matter how many points you guys got, the winner is going to be the one who actually completed the base raid. If you both complete the base raid, it's going to be determined based on time and who was more effective. Now, if both of you fail, it's going to be whoever got through the farthest objectives. So say you both sucked, you both lost. But if one guy got through the next objective and you couldn't get that far, then they won because they were more effective than you. You get what I'm saying? Now, if both teams tie on said objective, now we're going to start looking at who got the better points. And the points are going to be determined from kills, objectives, and destroyed based assets. In addition, points are going to be given based on how well you and your clan actually did a good defense. So if you're actually kicking ass in defense, you're going to get some points for that as well. And that's going to be how you win clan raids. And I think that would be an absolutely amazing idea for the garage building. It'll be a new mode that I think would actually be pretty exciting. It will definitely be longer than the standard clan war, so I feel like it should be an optional one instead of like, cycling through Leviathan and regular and then that. I feel like it should be just like regular Leviathan with that, and you can just choose between. But I think that would be a solid idea. And it might even be very helpful for people to get uranium. So now going up. The second one is going to be something that I haven't really seen in any other games, and I call it Clan Allies. This is something more unique that I haven't seen in any other game. I like how I'm repeating myself without even remembering what I wrote that I know of. Basically, AV8 clan wars where 4 clans are present. This will be the standard mode, but having the 2 clans work together. I believe during this mode there should be an in-game chat to further add the cooperation between the 2 clans. So I think there is an in-game chat for PC, but there is not one for Xbox and PlayStation, which I don't know why that is, but I think there should be during this mode, so that way you and your allies, which would be another clan, can actually talk and communicate with each other and get through the 8v8 in the standard modes. And that could be like slaughter, that could be encounter, assault, whatever. And you guys can actually, get through it as a much bigger unit. That, I thought Clan Allies was like a pretty cool and interesting idea. And it might be a bit of a change up from just 4v4. And instead of just you and your clan mates, now you're getting to play with somebody else. And you're both trying to work together to get uranium. Now this next part, this mode will also include the third game mode listed below. And this is where we're going to get to the last one. And the last one should be a little bit more familiar. Which I just call it Juggernaut. Mainly because I was thinking of Twisted Metal 2012, where they had the big Juggernaut trucks. And of course, if you play as Mr. Grimm's motorcycle and shoot the bitch with a fucking RPG or a chainsaw, you can just demolish them. Sadly, that's not an option here. This mode will be included in the mentioned AV8 clan allies. Juggernaut is based on the drone apocalypse event, having two massive levies that will look like the destroyed behemoths you see around the maps. Basically, those cool looking things like the Leviathan behemoth. Wait, what? Like the Nomad behemoth that you see during the adventure, where it's like those big wheels and it looks like a plane. But something like that, something that isn't just like, the Coca-Cola versus Pepsi truck. Like, it's trying to make it like a little bit more immersive, is what I'm basically getting at. However, the behemoths have weapons that guard their team. So in this case, when you're fighting the Leviathans are also fighting back, kind of like hit and run. Except instead of just one Reaper, it's going to have like a little bit of guns, and it's going to be more like the chase vehicles as well. Except probably not as strong, because those chase vehicles, unless you were using grav stars, kind of kicked your ass. So that's another idea I had. However, the behemoths have weapons, blah blah blah. Mode can be either a slaughter or destroy the Leviathan. So basically, in the slaughter mode, the Leviathans are invincible, but you're going to be spawning with the Leviathan, and now you got a big vehicle on your side, and you can basically do team deathmatch while both sides have a big crazy truck. Or it could be the classic where you go and you try to either get the most damage or you try to destroy the Leviathan or Juggernaut, which sounds like a pretty solid idea to me, especially since in so many maps you see these destroyed behemoths everywhere. So I'm kind of surprised there wasn't something like that already besides the invasion mode. And that one isn't really like a Team VT thing. So now you can see from up there, lastly I made an entire battle pass based on the Steppenwolves. And I like to call this one Sea of Fire. And this battle pass is going to be going a lot towards a lot of the base defenses. And I call it Sea of Fire because it's going to have two factions. And those two factions are going to be based on basically Steppenwolf naval units that are performing landings. So I call them the Naval Corps and the Beachhead Raiders. Alright, so this one is just basically going to be like a standard battle pass where I actually went through 1 through 76, and everything past that is going to be lighters and crates. Trying to keep with the theme here. You can see I got special crates, stickers, lighters. The logo in the portrait is going to be based on the Beachhead Raiders, the first ones, which are basically going to be like your Marines that go and attack the beachhead. So going down, you got like the paints, which is the Dazzle camo. That's like going to be like your classic, it's kind of like shapes. It's not like really camo, but like the ship camos. That way to keep with the theme. The weapons, I'm going to go in a little bit more detail when I get down there, but you can see I got like the different legendary weapons and whatnot. Then you got like the base defense and the base defense crates there. That's basically going to be like your turrets and like some special vehicles that can be like a little bit stronger than the regular spawn-ins. Your like your cannons and whatnot, and the crates are going to be just like, so the regular base, the ones that say regular base defense are sure this is what you're going to get, and usually it's going to be better than what you're going to get from the crate base defense, where the crate defense is going to be a little bit more random, and you possibly can get something the equivalent of regular base defense, but this is basically like when they came out with the Carnival Pass, where you could get like sure Carnival things for your base, and then you had like the crate ones, where you could get like a random thing. So there we go. We got another one, the Royal Navy Tamer, which is the blue Dazzle, more base defense, structural parts, the background and logo for the Naval Corps. So that way you get like one for the Marines and one for the Navy. You got the legendary cabin in there that I came up with, more crates. This time, which I'm surprised they haven't did for this one, I added a skin for the tank tracks, which is going to be amphibious IFV, and a skin for the ML200 sea legs. And the reason I call it that is like a skin for the legs is if they were walking ships. Kind of like the Cyborg Nation from, it's not Command and Conquer, Supreme Commander, where That I don't know why. That was always my favorite thing to do, is to upgrade them with the legs and watch the destroyers climb up onto land. That I always thought that shit was so badass, seeing the ships just come right out of the water and start walking on the land. So that's kind of where I got that idea from. And then you got another legendary weapon. I don't like that they really throw the blueprints too far off. I kind of wanted to keep it with it. That's why I got it so close. Uh, and then I got like the big stuff down here where legendary naval gun defense. I'm sure you can guess that. It's going to be basically like a tri-barrel cannon or a double-barrel cannon that's going to be massive, deal a lot of damage. And then I thought number 76 was a really cool idea. So that way you can get like a different, like either a different look and layout for like a completely different base. So that way you can get multiple layouts and see which one you think it would be better. And basically like switch it up a little bit with which base you want to play in. So it's kind of like a free garage that you can get. God, that would be a great idea for a battle pass, like free garage. It'd be something, a little bit more than just resource crates. I did add resource crates in here just because I think it would appeal to the devs a little bit, just because they really like resource crates for whatever reason. But I digress. Alright, Steppenwolf's Battle Pass combining land and former naval departments, factions, the Beachhead Raiders, and Naval Corps. Structural parts coming from amphibious IFVs and ships. Paints based on the ship Dazzle camo and Hex style C camo. So it's basically that's basically like the hex pattern that you see in this battle pass, except the hexes are going to be in colors like dark blue, white, whatnot. And it's going to be almost like a digital C camo, like what the Navy used to have before they switched to this really ugly, like gray and weird ass green. Stickers representing the naval forces and beachhead landing forces. I was about to say raiders, but I didn't put that. The decor would be shipped based. So, you got like spotlights, lights preservers, masks. Maybe you could have like those little boats that they have on the side, like lifeboats. That's what I was trying to say. Or like, like racks with torpedoes, racks with the big ass shells. So things like that. That would be kind of sick. The base defense being items for the mode, clan raids. The base defense crate giving items such as traps and turrets for the mode clan raids, which is basically stuff I already explained. So now we're going to get into the legendary weapons that I came up with. So I didn't just add legendary and epic stuff there. I actually even came up with what they would be, and I think this shit is pretty sick. And when you hear this, I think you're really going to like it, because I absolutely adore this. I think these are some very good ideas, and I think they fit perfectly with the theming, and it just all makes perfect sense to me. So, starting out with our first one, I know it says end modules, but really I just kind of focused on cabins and weapons, so there isn't going to be any legendary modules or epics. The first one, the Merkava, I don't know if I'm saying that right. Merkava? I'm pretty sure it's Merkava. Just correct me in the comments, man. And this one is going to be based on the faction Beachhead Raiders. And this is going to be an 11 to 12 energy cannon, a large turret cannon with high damage main gun and high durability. The abilities are weapon stabilizer to hold turret accuracy and holds 3 frontal MGs on top as secondary weapons. As the weapon reloads, the main gun benefits from reload buffs, as the MGs benefit from coolers and radiators. MGs on top can be disabled by taking damage, however, will be slowly repair over time, but the repair can be set back by receiving damage to MGs. So basically, I'm going to show you the picture I got down here. I got it from this thing. As you can see right here, I thought this is just kind of like fitting with the setting of Crossout, where it's like everything is just kind of like in this futuristic apocalyptic wasteland. And the reason I chose this one as well is because you can see it has like the 3 machine guns on top, but instead of those 2 on top being like turrets, and I think this one is kind of a turret as well. I could have sworn it was like fixed a little bit, but basically they're all going to be just frontal. So wherever your turret's aiming is where the machine guns are going to be aiming, and the machine guns can take damage, but it's just basically going to damage them to a point that they're just going to like fall down and be unusable. And the turret, if you're not like, if you're getting out of there and you got some free time, they'll like slowly repair over time, and then you'll get all 3 of your MGs back eventually. But obviously, if you lose your main gun here, it's just gonna all fall apart. And it's going to be pretty large, so it's going to have a bit of durability. It's not going to be like a modern tank and like turn really fast. It's probably going to turn slow, so you might need an oppressor engine just for balancing sake. And of course, I thought of also having a stabilizer because the Crossout. This is something I always said is that in a lot of maps, using certain weapons is a bit difficult because the terrain kind of sucks. And basically, the stabilizer is, if you know anything about the stabilizer, is like when you're driving around, your gun is not just bouncing up and down, or if you go downwards and your whole tank is going down a hill, your gun is going to keep focus right there, and it's going to help you keep that accuracy up. That was just my idea. So going back up, you're gonna go to the next one, the Terminator. Steppenwolf's Beachhead Raiders, an 11 to 12 energy tank cabin. And the reason I really wanted a tank cabin is because I felt like, one, it fits the theme, and we only have one, which is the Carapace. Or Carapace. And I don't know why they didn't add another one. Like, it's the only tank cabin in the game, and it was like something I always wanted again. It's another tank cabin. And really go with the tank, tracks. It's going to be based on the Russian Terminator tank, which is, it's kind of like a smaller Armada or something like that. I got a picture down below. But instead of like a big cannon, the whole purpose of the Terminator was to have like an autocannon on top, and it was supposed to have like a bunch of other machine guns and whatnot, because the Terminator was basically their answer to close range urban combat, where if you're going into urban combat, it's going to be your most dangerous terrain for your vehicle, because the enemy could be up on the roof, he could be through any of the windows, he could be across the corner, he could be in the alley. It's basically the Terminator tank. The whole purpose of it was to cover as much ground as possible and fight multiple threats. So I'm thinking to myself, what would be great? What would be great? Oh, the Terminator tank being like an IFV, infantry fighting vehicle, but in the amphibious version, it would just make sense because it can cover all that ground. And I actually have 2 perks, and I don't mean just like right off the bat, but just like one option or an alternative option, and I think they're both pretty solid. It's going to be a large square-shaped body, so it's going to have like it's going to be a little lower profile, but it is going to be like, kind of square, rectangle. It's going to be fitting nicely between the tank tracks. And it's going to be layered top to offset weapons mounted on top. So basically what I mean by that is like, think of a staircase type of deal. And it's going to help you with like a banana build. So this way you can like put your guns on different sets, so that way they don't like, block each other. And the reason I recommend that is because I'm sure if you're looking through here already while I'm talking, is because of the perk. And that is, the ability of the cabin will have multiple connection points instead of repairing the weapons, because the only thing those connection points ever do is they repair. Every time they're on a cabin, they're just there for repairing. This time I'm trying to think outside the box, and what if the connection points did something else? You know what I'm saying? It's still going to be activation, because I don't want it to be like overpowered. I just want it to be like, if you activate it, you're just getting a bunch of buffs and you can like dominate in a fight. It's kind of like, I don't want you to, no, let's not say dominate, but you're just going to have an edge. Instead of repairing weapons on activation, the points will provide multiple buffs, which will depend on the specific weapons mounted. So basically, it's going to give you buffs that are actually going to help with your weapon, and it can be different weapons as well. So that way, it'd be universal. So let's say you're adding the buffs to a homing rocket. It's going to have better turn speed. It's going to have better reload. If you add it to rapid fire machine gun, it's going to have better cooling. It's going to have better spread. It's just going to determine, but it's not going to be like all at once. It's going to be determined on stacks. So you can't just like, oh, I got my perk ready, but if you just activate it right away, you're just gonna have like slight buffs. But the longer you wait and the more time you give your thing to stack up, the more better it's gonna be. So here comes the first one. The in real life Terminator was meant for urban close range combat, so the ability will build up based on enemies nearby, like the Echo. So that one, the first one, is going to be more for. Actually, I think one is. So this is going to be the activation one, and the other one is going to be like permanent. So this one is since and this makes sense to me just because I'm trying to be like accurate with what the cabin is based on. And if you're getting surrounded, you're going to want to edge. And the whole purpose of the Terminator, like I said, is to give you an edge, to cover as much ground as possible, to basically buff yourself so you're better. And when you're having all these enemies on you, the more enemies there are, the faster you're going to build up stacks. And when you build up that mass stacks, you're going to have huge bonuses that are really going to help you out. So that way, when you're getting surrounded, you can still put up a decent fight. And that's going to be an activation one, because you're probably going to get your stacks way faster, way better, and it's going to be just a good time for you, just like when you want to have that reload speed. But now this one is like the golden version of the Echo, but better. It's going to be more buffs. Or the alternative is after dealing a certain amount of damage, because another point of the Terminator is when you're covering all that area is you're just dealing damage everywhere. A certain amount of damage build permanent stacks like the Catalina by giving multiple buffs to mounted guns. The more stacks, the better the rewarded buff. So instead of just giving you straight damage, this is going to be the golden, legendary, whatever, Catalina, to where you're going to get better spread, you're going to get better cooling, you're going to get better heating over time. It's like, you get it? It's going to be more strategic buffs based on your weapons that you have mounted on the connection points. And the whole point of why I wanted to do the connection points is because obviously if you're getting all these buffs, you don't want to just like have it too easy. You want to be like risk reward. You got to like have it in a certain place. But obviously, like I said, you want to have it like the staggered staircase type of thing. And I'm going to show you kind of like why I've been thinking like that. Is if you kind of look here, you can kind of see it kind of goes up right here, and then it has like that little point right here, and I get that's like for looking. But you can even see like right here, this one right here, that round part over the looking glass, and then there's one over here over that looking glass right there. All of that is like look, so you got something over here. You see this the turret. You could like remove this autocannon, and that'll be another connection point type of area. Like, you thinking of how this infantry fighting vehicle would be, there's a lot of connection points right there. Like, literally, if Gaijin or Tarjum uses the Terminator, you can kind of see you'll have a bunch of points that you can use, and it would just make sense. It would just make total sense. So that's why I chose the Terminator for that ability. So going up, we just got through the Terminator. Also, the names, I kind of based them off the in real life counterpart. That's kind of where I got the names from. So that way it'll be like easier and it would just make sense. This one, I kind of had the thought that it would either be, because there's always a mini pass, and usually there's a mini pass that goes with the battle pass. I don't think they did one for this new one, but they had like when they did the Hiberian, they had like a mini Hiberian battle pass, and it kind of gave you like, or maybe that wasn't it. That was kind of like Gladiator, but in it, you could tell that there was hints of Hiberian in it, as in the armored tracks you could make into Hiberian tracks and whatnot. So this one would be a mini battle pass called Steppenwolf's Strike Force. Or if they wanted to, you could even add this into the main battle pass for the naval corps. You know, because ships are just filled with cannons and autocannons, so it would still make sense for both parties. This one is going to be the 4 energy autocannon. It's going to be based on the fast firing R23M autocannon, which, if you didn't know, is basically an extremely fast firing autocannon that they have for like a spaceship or something, and it's like an anti-aircraft gun. It looks kind of funky, but it looks like an upgraded version of the Jewel, and that's why I chose it, because it's both fast firing and it kind of has a resemblance of a stronger looking Jewel. Kind of even looks more like a futuristic version of the AC-64 Jewel. See, like, I'm just repeating myself, and I am not even reading what I'm saying. A part of the low durability yet fast-firing autocannons, this would be the legendary counterpart of the Jewel. Ability, I believe, should be the Stillwind perk. And right here, reading, this will make sense, because if you remember, the rapid-fire machine guns are considered a Steppenwolf part. And the whole point of the rapid fire machine guns is because they are their version of ambush weapons, where when the enemy gets into position, the rapid fire machine gun is their ambush weapon. The Steppenwolves have the rapid fire MGs for ambush to remain cloaked while firing, which would be more beneficial, as the 4 energy would be more tempting to use a chameleon or even the beholder. Like, see? Like, just think about that. When the weapon is 4 energy, and you have more that you can do with other than just boosting the weapon, you're probably going to think, well, I got my radar, I got my radiators, I got my coolers and whatnot. I think I can benefit from throwing a chameleon on here and getting the perk. Like, you're going to be way more inclined to actually want to use the actual ability from that one to this one. And it's still an autocannon. It's still going to have some range to it. And when you're driving around and you're like, whoa, where am I getting shot from? From an ambush weapon, it just makes sense. However, just in case that doesn't make sense to them, and they don't want to change the Stillwinds perk, I got an alternative for this one as well. Making successful hits will add stacks. Each stacks will complement modules, giving a percentage bonus to each. For example, slightly quicker chameleon cooldown, or adding slight percentages to radiators or coolers. And the whole idea of this is, like how this line says, upgraded version of the Jewel perk by boosting modules. So the Jewel's perk is basically when you're making contact, well, not making contact, it's when you're driving a certain distance, not distance, but when you're driving a certain speed, God, I don't know why that was like drawn blank there, you get 25% to your overall heating, and it's going to make it so you can continuously shoot. I would say that this is the upgraded version of that, because instead of how fast you're driving, it's based on how accurate you are with your weapon, and it's going to be building stacks on hits, and you'll be losing stacks when you miss. So it's going to be kind of like the impulse, where if you hit it, you get stacks, but if you miss, you lose stacks, right? And what's going to be cool about this is you're going to get a lot more benefit from your radiators and coolers, because those stacks are going to be giving a certain percentage to all of your modules to make them slightly better. So when your radiators are getting better and your coolers are getting better, guess what? You're shooting longer, and then when you overheat, it's going down faster based on your stacks. So in a way, that's just the upgraded version of the Jewel. And it's going to be easier to use because it's going to be based on your hits, not just your speed. Because, and I say that just because I know you're probably going to want to be driving around and whatnot. But at the same time, a lot of the cases, you're not just going to be wanting to drive in circles all the time. You're probably going to be stationary and sometimes. So this is going to be more beneficial in all scenarios. So when you want to like make those accurate shots and not just expose yourself, this is going to benefit you. Or if you are driving around circles and you're hitting them, this is going to benefit you. So this is going to give you more benefits even if you play a different play style with the weapon. And that just basically means it's going to be more universal to players as well. And of course, I got in a picture of this one as well. If you haven't seen what this space autocannon looks like, this is it. And you can kind of see it's a big chunky boy. It has kind of that top feeding, just like the Jewel. Goes right over the top. And, it's mainly, you just see the gun. Doesn't have any armor or anything. So you can see why I picked this one for the Jewel. And, in literally real life, it is a fast-firing anti-aircraft gun. So, yeah, I think that's perfect as a legendary Jewel. And so I still got one more legendary. And this is literally a legendary I had in my head for years. And I came up with it just because I absolutely adored the Kakakis, and while everybody hated it, like even when I was fighting it, it's like, yeah, I get it. It was a bit strong, but I still didn't mind it because I enjoyed using the Kakakis in raids, and I had my fun with the Kakakis when I was just playing. Like I thought it was a pretty solid gun, and I don't think they should have nerfed it as hard as they did. So this one is going to be the Polonix. I hope I said that right. By the Naval Corps. I keep saying corpse, but it's core. Like I shouldn't even be messing that up so much because I was literally in the Marine Corps, but I keep saying corpse just because the S always throws me off. But it's gonna be a 5 to 6 energy automatic MG slash minigun. It I originally had it as 4, like the Kakakis, but I think this is gonna be a lot more fitting because it is gonna be a lot better than the Kakakis, and it's gonna prevent like a lot of really overpowered builds just because it's gonna be a strong weapon. But if you just have 2 of them, or if you could just put 3 of them in like a module, it's really gonna counteract. So that way you're it won't be like so overpowered, and it's gonna be legendary. So I feel like it should have a lot of power score to it. So that way you're not seal clubbing with it. So obviously it's based on this CIWS system that is the big ass pill looking thing with a minigun on it. And it's you see it all the time on the side of American ships. It's basically a defense weapon, just like how the Kakakis. I did see a Kakakis, like what it looked like in real life. It basically is identical, except it has 1 barrel, not 2. I don't know what that one's called, but they're both basically defense weapons, except the Kakakis is a defense weapon for vehicles, and this one's going to be a defense weapon for ships and bases, because you can put this system on the side of bases to stop like mortar strikes and whatnot. And so going through this, it is going to be a bigger version. It's a big ass pill looking thing, but a bit tougher in durability since it is larger. Clearly, it holds a Gatling gun, so its fire rate will also be improved because, it's Kakakis with a minigun. Versus, it's kind of like the regular Kakakis has Spectre because it has the 2 barrels, and this one's going to be like the other Epic, which is a minigun, the Equalizer, except better, of course. It's a legendary. Like, I really feel like legendary shouldn't suck, you know what I'm saying? And the ability will be the weapon will automatically lock on. So it's going to have like the old Kakakis perk where it's going to lock on for you. But the thing is I wanted it to be, its main purpose. So instead of just primarily attacking some random guy, if that guy is like right up on you and shooting you, the weapon is not going to shoot him if somebody is dropping something that will trigger the weapon. And what I mean by that is if missiles are coming at you, if there's a drone, if there's mines or whatever, it's going to primarily go after those. Like it says here, will prioritize mines, turrets, and incoming missiles. So that way it's keeping its original function. It'll only focus on the nearest hostile if none of those things are at play, which most of the times is probably just going to target him because you don't really see a lot of these all the time. However, if you wish to focus on an enemy, you could still do that like the original lock-on with the Kakakis currently. However, thanks to the large radar system built in, the weapon can locate and track visible traps like the vulture or invisible enemies, however, will not show them on radar like the verifier. So this thing will have the ability, because the reason that it is that big old pill and everything is because all of that is just a big computer system mixed with radar. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, it's like the Maxwell, I believe that's what it's called, the special Doppler on top of a minigun. So this thing will be able to track those invisible enemies and perform its duty as a defensive weapon. Because the whole point of it is to be a defensive weapon. It's not to shoot you across the map or anything. It is to defend its user. And yes, you can play aggressive with this, but you can play aggressive with anything, because literally you have people driving by you dropping landmines. But I think that would be an absolutely solid choice. And if you wanted to, it could be like a little bit weaker or almost just as strong as a Reaper. And that's why I say it can be like, since it has that minigun with that perk, but it'll overheat, it could be a 6 energy automatic minigun that'll be firing on these enemies for you. But it might be slightly weaker than the Reaper, so that way it's not like too overpowered, but will still be a great weapon that'll shoot all the missiles out of the air that are tracking you, basically canceling out the hurricane and whatnot, and will also greatly benefit you from dogs that are trying to turn invisible and get behind your lines. However, that system will not be like a verifier or anything, and you won't be able to see where the enemy is coming invisible unless you you look and you actually see the little blur. The weapon itself will see the enemy and charge up and shoot him, which will still give the enemy a bit of time to get to you while the minigun is charging up. And of course, if you don't know what I'm talking about, because I almost forgot to show you, this is basically what it is. And you can see it's not too overly large. You got the dude right there. Because, I mean, think about it. You got some pretty big weapons that are way bigger than a person if you look at the size of your door versus the mammoth or whatever. So this thing is pretty sizable. It's going to be a little bit harder to armor up. But in a way, I feel like that would be a little bit fair for having basically a Reaper on top of your car that'll automatically shoot for you. So, that'd be fair. And I think the perk for it just makes total sense, and it would make total sense for this battle pass because it is another naval weapon or defensive module or whatever you want to call it. So now we're going to get into our epic weapons, which I have at the very start of the battle pass. And this one, I have no cabins or modules. It's just going to be weapons. And I have 2 names for this one. The M120 ground pounder or the M120 spear. So it's basically whatever they think is best. The spear is actually the name of a mortar vehicle system, but I thought the ground pounder was pretty, like the name fit for it as well. And the M120, basically it is a 120 millimeter mortar. And this one is going to be also by the Steppenwolf's Beachhead Raiders. A 6 to 7 energy mortar. Heavy mortar system. In a way, it could also be a 5, depending how it is. So that way you can have 3 mortars just going bomb, bomb, bomb. but I put 6 to 7 just to make it like a bit fair, just because I don't know how strong it would be, but it could go down kind of just like how the earlier autocannons where you can only have two, and then they made like the energy lower so you can have like three now. So I feel like it just kind of it just depends. But it's basically going to be a heavy mortar system that will have the arc firing like the Heather or Mandrake. The weapon will be a single large projectile with huge blast radius. So, it's a mortar. Think of the mortar that's in the game right now, the Avalanche, but probably not hitting you as hard, but still like a big blast radius, which will be similar. Decently accurate, but less accurate than a Heather. So, since it's a mortar, um, mortars are generally, they're not too bad in accuracy. The Mandrake is like piss poor accuracy. Like there's no accuracy to that thing, like almost at all. So it's definitely going to be more accurate than that, but it's not going to be as accurate as the missile system, which, the Heather. So it's going to be like in between. The projectile velocity will be a bit slower before making contact to the target area. So it's also kind of considering the avalanche. It's not going to be a big, like, it's not going to be a fast projectile because even the Mandrake is pretty fast. The Heather is definitely fast. It's going to be a slower projectile, so you're really going to need to time your shots. But that's where the whole the big blast radius is going to be coming from. It's all going to like just basically come together, and that's what I'm trying to do is make a weapon that just makes sense. But because it is also a mortar, at the same time the mortar class will be able to hit closer to your own vehicle versus other artillery class weapons. So the Heather, the incinerator, the Mandrake, all of their arcs, you can't like really fire near yourself. You have to like go the distance unless you like kind of like, you got to put like the legs on your vehicle and then you have like the wheels in the front and that way you can like launch right in front of you and whatnot. This is going to be kind of the opposite of that because since it is a mortar, you can obviously aim a mortar straight up and you'll be able to like fire around you. Probably not just like right next to you, just so you're not blowing yourself up. But it'll be a lot closer than those other artillery based weapons. And I think the ability would be perfect for this as well, since you can fire closer to yourself. Is the ability is the further the distance, the greater the blast damage. So it's basically getting the photon photon completely forgot what that energy, the legendary parser. I'm not sure. I kind of forgot right now. I'm drawing a blank. I think the parser is the shotgun, but it's basically the plasma cannon. Before it got its new perk, it used to have the farther the distance away it was, the more blast radius it would have. It's basically going to be like that. So the farther, like the more arc you're putting out there, the better the blast damage is going to be. And I think that would synchronize very, very well with this weapon. Just because if you think about it, it's a slow moving projectile. And if the enemy's starting to get away, at least you can do some damage or with that bigger, much bigger blast radius. And that's going to synchronize very well with like the Harpy and whatnot. So that way you can actually hit those targets way farther out there, even if they're starting to move around and whatnot. So it's giving you a much better chance, and it's actually going to be promoting long distance fire with this thing. And I'm sure it would sound cool as hell too, flying through the air. This one I can definitely see like a loud whistling noise, and it's like all you hear is this big projectile landing right next to you. That'd be dope as hell, man. And just so this is kind of what I was thinking it would look like. So this is like on a Chinese vehicle. You can see it's like kind of square around there. Um, I know there is like an automatic one where it kind of has like this metal rod that goes up and then drops the mortar in, and then it kind of goes down and picks it up without a crew. So this is, I know these are probably like two different mortars, but basically kind of the same concept. You can kind of see right there that square body, big vehicle mortar. I don't think this one might have like the automatic system on there. I don't see a crew there, but that's basically what I was thinking of. That look, you can't even deny though. The JLTV is sexy as hell, and I don't know what it is, but that mortar on that thing, that just looks sexy. Like look at that. Look at that image, bro. That's a sexy vehicle, and that is a sexy mortar. That is just awesome. But that's kind of the mortar system I was thinking of. And lastly, did I actually have? Okay, I don't know why I thought I had another epic. But the last one is going to be the Bofors. I hope I said that right. I believe that is I think that's a Russian name. I can't remember. I don't remember. Whatever that gun is, right? It's going to be a 5 energy light cannon. So another weapon I was thinking of is the median, which is that single shot cannon looking thing where it's like a smaller projectile but high velocity and it's kind of hard to miss. So it's kind of like a mixture of a cannon and auto cannon where it's going to be that one shot but infinite ammo. This is going to be its bigger brother. Heck, this could even like be a legendary, but I was thinking it would make more sense to have the epic one first. It's going to be 5 energy, just like the median, so you can have up to 3 of these bad boys. And since it is going to be more of a naval weapon, it's going to go to the naval core. Based on the Bofors 57mm, which is right down there, 57 millimeter, it will be the smaller naval gun that will be the upgraded version of the median. However, this one will fire in slower 3-round bursts before having to reload. So think boom, 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 or probably a little bit faster, like boom, boom, boom. So you can still like get hit by one and then somewhat avoid the other ones. That's kind of like the thought process I had. Is because obviously this is probably like a more automatic. Yeah, see, it's an automatic gun, so it's probably going to be like boom, 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 boom. But I was trying to make it fair because obviously, even to me, the median looks like it is supposed to be a anti-aircraft gun with the magazine, so it shouldn't be a one shot. But looking at this one, you can kind of see you got like the median shorter barrel autocannon looking thing, but this one has like the shield around it. So that way it looks a little bit more protected and stronger than the regular median. But instead of just firing one shot, it's going to have a 3-round slow burst. And the ability will be each successful hit in burst will give a percentage to the following shot reload. So if you only hit one time, you get a 5%. If you hit 2 times, you get 10%. 3 times, 15%. Not like a big 20 or anything, because usually like 20 or higher is like a legendary type of reload. So I thought that would be fair. And then it's just like you can start going boom, boom, boom. Oh, you connected all your shots. You got a reload module. And boom, boom, boom. Oh, you connected all your shots with a reload module. Boom, boom, boom. So it's going to be faster firing than the median, just thanks to that perk and a reload module. And you're going to be laying down more like high velocity shots down range. So I thought that would be a great idea for an upgraded median. So anyway, going back, there it is, the legendary cannon, the epic mortar, the legendary cabin, the epic single, well, I guess it's a light cannon, I don't really remember what it's classed as, the legendary Caucasus, and the legendary rapid fire auto cannon. And that is everything, guys. Like, I was just really excited about everything I came up with here. I thought all of this was just absolutely amazing. I it's like it kind of almost blew my mind with just like my creativity with this whole thing and just how well everything just fit together. Cause I like literally even in my head I was just like thinking this is gonna be the beachhead raiders and they're gonna be like the Marine Corps conquering the island. Oh, and that just makes total sense for the clan raids because they're raiding the island. So this is gonna be the Navy just coming in there trying to take over the enemy base and it just all fit. And then they got like the bombardment on the base, and they're gonna have the naval guns that are gonna defend the base. It's like it all just fit together. It was just like it was almost meant to be. and then sea of fire because all the you see all the ships everywhere and there's no water, so the bases could be like made up of ships. You could be like trying to conquer an aircraft carrier, so you're like driving around there doing the objectives and whatnot. And it's called Sea of Fire because of the war between the clans and everything's just like blowing up and stuff. I thought like to me that was just pretty solid. And there is something else I thought about, like, and it was three other things actually, and I didn't add it to this, but I'm just gonna say it out here. One is if they're gonna be adding those interactives, I like I said in my update video, I predict that the next interactive is gonna be town, the old town, because you can see those activate trucks and the military like pill boxes. They're not even pill boxes. It's kind of like a military tower with the quad barrel machine guns on top of it. I feel like that's going to be the next active is you're going to have like machine guns shooting at you. Um the next one I had was I actually thought up of a legendary clarinet. And I know the clarinet sucks, but my whole idea here was this is going to be kind of another artillery weapon, but you control the rocket. So obviously your vehicle is going to be stationary, but my idea was when you fire this thing and go stationary, it makes your vehicle like invisible for like a short duration. So that way, when you're just stuck there, players aren't just going to automatically see you and fire on you. You're going to be invisible, so it's going to protect you a little bit. But when it goes up and it starts coming down, you're going to be able to course its trajectory while it's coming down. And if you go and you hit the vehicle straight on, you're going to have a lot of like either penetration or just like heavy damage with that projectile hitting that singular vehicle. Or if you hit the fire button, whatever the shoot button is for you, when the missile is coming down, it'll kind of be like more like a Hellstorm missile. And actually, yeah, it kind of like a Hellstorm missile, except it's not going to be like missiles that are tracking your targets. It's going to be kind of like a cluster bomb effect, so that way you can get area of effect. So, say if a bunch of enemies are grouped together and you hit that ability, you're going to do kind of like a cluster attack right there, and it'll give you the option of you can either do high damage to a singular target or you can do some decent damage to multiple targets. And going with that was basically the third thing is just all the options of base defenses that players can control that could literally be like one of those missile trucks that they have on Fortress now that'll be shooting those type of rockets. Or you could be manning the three-barreled guns, like I said, or you could be manning the Mandrake, or even switch it up to a Heather, which would also be a great idea is if you have those turrets that you can choose what type of artillery you want. Like you could put an incinerator or whatever type of artillery. Or when you get like to the ground things, you could put like a caucus, or if you manage to upgrade, you could get the new like the Polymix, which would be another solid addition to your base defense. And I feel like all of that would just be great together. Anyways, I just really wanted to say that quick update. I do hope that you guys enjoyed that. I thought it was pretty awesome in my opinion, like everything I came up with. And I just was so excited to share that I really wanted to hear your guys' opinion. And I do hope that you let me know in the description what you guys think. And like always, guys, if you actually came and watched my ramble on this, like, honestly, thank you. I appreciate it. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why you would want to watch this one. This is just me just being like super excited about something. But if you enjoyed this and you think this was a great idea, please let me know. And if you actually found this entertaining in some way, do think about leaving a like and subscribe, guys. Like, I really appreciate it. Anyways, thank you if you're still here, and you have a fantastic night. Peace, guys.